Welcome to the Paso Sports Baseball Edition. Alongside me is special guest Amanda Orr. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
She comes from Phillies Nation, about a 5-year stint there. She does know her Phillies baseball, and that is the segment today, Phillies baseball. Right off the bat, Amanda, what can we expect from the Phillies this season?
Well, right now they're not off to a very good start, starting the season 0-4. A lot of bullpen woes to start the season. Definitely a rebuilding stage for the Phillies this year. Pretty much what we expected coming into the season. Not a whole lot of wins, 70 maximum, even if they get that high.
70's being very generous after the first 4 games.
Yeah, very generous, but if bullpen's going to be the biggest issue this season.
We already seen that in the first handful of games. The Phillies bullpen has not been a bright spot, blowing a couple leads, especially for Hellickson and Aaron Nola. But what can we expect the Phillies with the new GM, Matt Klentak?
It's definitely going to be a rebuilding season. There's not going to be too many moves right now. Bullpen will be a rotating the door between kids coming up from the minor leagues or having some people come in on the outside. But I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of deals this season. Carlos Ruiz might get traded around the trade deadline. Ryan Howard will try to be moved, but I don't think anybody's going to want to eat up his contract.
I'm going to pause you right there, though. Where do you think Carlos Ruiz will go then?
I think it depends on who's contending and who needs a catcher at the time. You know, injuries can happen at any point through the year, especially at the catching position. That's a really demanding on the body. So as long as there's something open, he'll move somewhere, wherever they can find a spot for him.
We discussed earlier maybe rejoining Cole Hamels could play a role, especially if the Rangers are in playoff hunt.
Oh, definitely. Cole Hamels would love to have Carlos Ruiz as his catcher again. They've been, the top battery when they were with the Phillies. So, Carlos Ruiz and Cole Hamels getting back together again would be amazing for the Rangers.
Injuries do plague teams. We've already seen it with the Chicago Cubs, and Kyle Schwarber has already tore his ACL and LCL within the first 4 games, and that's a big blow to a World Series favorite that we'll get to later.
Yeah, injuries can play a factor for any team. If you have an injury, it could impact the whole season, even if it's just one player.
Now, we're going to go on. Maybe the biggest star on this team is going to be Maikel Franco. What can you tell us about him?
Maikel Franco, he's going to be a star. He's going to be a top third baseman. I think the excitement around him is a lot like when Scott Rowland first came up. People are really excited to watch him play. Third base, pretty solid defensively, amazing offensively. He's going to easily get over 20 home runs, possibly in the 30. Even in his best, he could have possibly a 40 home run year at some point in his career.
But with that being said, you have Ryan Howard batting cleanup, and everyone knows he's declining. You have Franco batting third. He's done a good job the first couple games of getting on base and not swinging at the bad pitches, which I could think would impact his home run swings or doubles and triples, etc.
Right. Well, a lot of the analysts and a lot of the broadcasters and even some of the coaches on the team were saying that just this spring training, Franco has shown much more patience from this year compared to last year. So just in the first month, getting into the routine, into the groove, he's already showing that he's trying to be patient and becoming a better hitter. So he'll be able to get on base, score some runs, and also drive in some runs offensively too.
Another guy that is in his second season for the Phillies but has had some good strides is Herrera, who plays center field. What can you tell us about him?
I think it was a shock to pretty much everybody. He came in, nobody really knew who he was. Kind of Phillies took a risk on him and turned out worked for them for the best. He's had a really great year last year, so the Phillies are really hoping that last year wasn't a fluke and he can really continue that not only this year but throughout his career and become their star center fielder, hopefully.
Now, outside of pitching, who are some of the people in the lineup that fans can expect to see, especially with this rotating outfield almost?
Well, definitely Franco's going to be the star. In the outfield, you have Herrera, and then the corners kind of going to have a bunch of different guys. Althea came in, and he was supposed to be one of the starting outfielders, but then he ended up getting hurt. And with a lot of guys in the waiting in the minor leagues, especially Nick Williams, who's had a great spring, he's one of the top prospects in the Phillies farm system. we could really
Hmm.
see a lot of different outfielders coming in and out throughout the season.
With that being said, there hasn't been a lot of production for the Phillies in the outfield. They're having thoughts of moving Darren Ruff, who's going to platoon with Ryan Howard at first base, and potentially put him in left field where he's already played before. But they need some more pop in the outfield. They need to generate more runs, especially when the bullpen has a over 12 ERA to begin the season.
Yeah, definitely. Ruff, they've tried him in the outfield several times. He's definitely going to get to see some playing time there, especially since he has some of that experience. So it's really going to be a lot of different outfielders coming in for the Phillies. I don't see them bringing anybody in from the outside right now because there's so much coming up in the outfield, especially in the next, maybe possibly few months, maybe next year. So I don't see too many outside deals being made.
Now, going to the rotation, a lot of fans are excited about the idea of having Aaron Nola become that ace, and he showed that he can be an ace in this Phillies rotation. He was the number 2 pitcher, though. You have Hellickson be this opening day starter, and he was a gem. He pitched beautifully until the bullpen came on and just blew it apart. But you got Nola, Hellickson. What are some other players, not just them two? Can you shine a light on them two in addition to some of the young pitchers that we can hopefully see with some of these trades and draft picks?
Well, the rest of the rotation lines up to be Charlie Morton, Jared Eichhoff, and Vince Velasquez.
And Morton didn't look so hot.
Yeah, not a good start for the year. Hopefully, I'll be able to turn that around. But I think one of the biggest hopes for the Phillies is that Vince Velasquez turns out to be a decent pitcher. I think he's kind of not a lot of attention on him, but I think that he could end up being a big surprise for the Phillies this year. And also coming up, maybe not this year, maybe towards the end of the year, but Jake Thompson, they got him in the Cole Hamels trade. He's a lot of eyes are on him to be one of the top pitchers in the league.
Now, looking at the bullpen, it's easy to say, oh, we shouldn't have traded Ken Giles. But Velasquez does have the stuff to be an ace in a type of rotation. Is he better suited to be a starter, or could you see him potentially being in the back end of the bullpen? Or you probably want to see him a combination of both? What do you think?
I think starting off his career, see how he comes out as a starter. If it doesn't pan out, we can always move him to the bullpen. But right now, I think he's in a good spot right now in the starting rotation.
And Aaron Nola?
Aaron Nola, he's going to be a star.
Oh, high praise there. Now, we just saw the Phillies win their futures game. And you had some interesting thoughts because the first game was a complete blowout. Ryan Howard was hitting bombs and he looked like he was in the prime of his career. And then the second game, Nick Williams truly shined. We saw a lot of good young prospects. You saw J.P. Crawford and you saw Nick Williams, who potentially could come up this year being in AAA.
Yeah, the Phillies, they have one of the top farm systems now, especially with all the trades they made in the past few years. They have a lot of top prospects. You mentioned a few of them. J.P. Crawford, the Phillies are hoping he's going to be the next Jimmy Rollins, if not better. Jake Thompson, as we said before. Roman Quinn, also in the outfield. They're hoping that he's going to pan out to be a great player as well.
Now, can you talk about Quinn? Because he's not very well known, like a J.P. Crawford, who's ranked number 4 in the MLB prospect list. And he's not a Jake Thompson, who they got in a high trade.
Sure. Roman Quinn, he's an outfielder. He's a young guy. I think he's only 23 years old or so. He has speed. He's not well known right now, but next few years, maybe we'll see him on ESPN.
Now, is he like Juan Pierre almost in center field, or does he have any pop in his swing?
I think he has a little bit more pop than Juan Pierre. Juan Pierre doesn't have any pop. I think we have more pop than Juan Pierre.
But, I mean, I wish I had the speed of Juan Pierre and he got you on base.
Yeah.
It looks like Quinn could potentially be a leadoff hitter, more likely, instead of J.P. Crawford taking that slot. But anything's possible.
Yeah, future has a lot to offer.
Now, sadly, the future right now is off there. We saw get injured in spring training, and you mentioned him before, but how big of an impact was that? Because the front office really wanted to see him play a full season up in the majors.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think it's much of an impact right now. Phillies, they're not going to be contenders this year. He was only up a short period of time. Yes, he did do really well, but again,
But isn't that the point, to get him more reps and get more experience to potentially be the everyday right fielder?
Definitely a good point. But I think it also gives other guys a chance to prove themselves. So it's
Which
not
hurts
just.
him, though, in effect, though, because it gives other guys more chances to take his spot, which I can understand
Yeah.
why he's disappointed about.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see him potentially, was I think number 5 or 6 in the lineup this year?
Yeah, he was probably going to be somewhere in the middle of the lineup. So again, he had a chance to prove himself this year if he got a chance to play, but now the other guys have another chance to play. So the Phillies' goal is to get the best player out there. So they're going to see a lot of different guys.
They're saying that he could come back in September, but I don't see the rush. But they'll find out a lot about his character, what kind of athlete he is, to try and get back into the lineup and see if he gets healthy. Now, moving forward, we're going to do predictions. Now, I don't have the Phillies going so many games. I believe I had them at about 69, 67 wins, right about there. But after the 0-4 start, I'm not feeling so great because the Mets are on a roll, and I could see them starting the season 0-6 going into the Phillies home opener. But who do you have? Excuse me, how many wins do you have?
For the year start, I pinned them at 69 and 93. I think we'll see somewhere in between the 60 and 70 range, even with the poor start. I think we're not going to have an 0-162 season this year.
If you're saying there's a chance, it's possible, but you never know with this team. The bullpen is such a disaster, but I've heard rumblings that Bailey in AAA could potentially come up. A lot of people don't know who Bailey was. He was an all-star closer who eventually got hurt, and he's trying to make his way back into the majors.
Yeah, honestly, I was surprised that he didn't make the team coming out of spring training. I thought for sure when the Phillies signed him, I thought he was here in the bullpen, especially.
Well, they could have used them.
Yeah, looking at the roster, I mean, if you don't know anything about the Phillies, then there's a bunch of no names in the bullpen. So, I mean, Bailey, even though he hasn't been in the majors a while, he's still a name that people know.
And he can supply some much needed 1, 2, 3 innings in the back end of that rotation, because Hellickson and Nola would both have one win right now if they just had a guy that could do that. Now, next up is the best pitcher. Outside of Nola, you said Velasquez. Who else can the Phillies look at and go, wow, he really made an impact this season for our team?
For pitchers, Nola is definitely going to be the star pitcher. He's going to end up being the ace. I think the Phillies are really hoping Jeremy Hellickson's going to have a big year. He had a great opening day. Hopefully, he'll continue that in year. I think the Phillies have big hopes for Hellickson for this year.
Now, along the same lines, best fielder outside of Franco, because he's the biggest star, and a lot of people are saying he has MVP caliber. Who else are they keeping an eye on?
For fielding, I'd say Freddie Galvis will probably be the most consistent fielder. I don't think the Phillies have a huge defensive team right now. I think everybody's still developing defensively, but I think Galvis, we know that he's been pretty reliable defensively.
And he also provided a bat. He hit a homer already against the Reds. Made a few nice plays in the field. Best hitter the Phillies can look at.
Definitely, without question, Franco. He's going to have a big year. He'll probably be on the All-Star team, and he'll probably hit 25 to 30 home runs, if not more.
Biggest surprise just coming out of training camp, in addition to what they can expect moving forward.
I think Vince Velasquez is going to be the biggest surprise. Nobody really has his eyes on him right now, but I think that he's going to open some eyes and be a solid end of the rotation pitcher.
Now, on this team, the Phillies already know they're probably going to be in the basement. They're probably going to be one of the worst teams in the league. They have a lot of young players they want to see. Now, come trade deadline, who might be a player or two that might be seeing the door come that trade deadline, potentially to a contender?
Well, we touched on this a little bit earlier. I think Carlos Ruiz will definitely go to a contender midseason. Like I said, Howard, they're going to try to move him, but I think he's going to end up staying. Howard, he's past his prime. I mean, think 10 years ago, 2006, he had his MVP year, and he's never going to get back to that. He's going to be consistently 20-plus home runs, 220 average, subpar defense,
But
lots of
couldn't
strikeouts.
a DH possibly in the AL? What will it take for a team to take a flyer on Ryan Howard at the deadline?
You have to pay for his whole contract, and I don't know if the Phillies would be willing to do that. They'll probably have to, but I think that's the only way a team will take him, and an AL team could definitely benefit from
But
that.
couldn't you see that with just say, even if you get a prospect, is it worth giving up Howard for the last 2 months about?
Yeah, I mean, Phillies, they've been making all these trades the past few years just to get one prospect, if any. So a lot of minor league players have been coming in for the
Mm-hmm.
Phillies, and I think Howard would be a good way to get that. It just depends on if they're willing to eat up his contract.
And the same with Ruiz. Would you bring up an Andrew Knapp, or do you rely on a Rupp if you trade Ruiz? Because they're saying Ruiz is being a crucial part of the development of these young catchers, especially out of spring training.
Yeah, Ruiz, he's definitely a good guy to go to. He's a leader in the clubhouse. He's great defensively. He knows his pitcher, so he's a great guy to have those young guys look up to. But if Ruiz is traded, I think they'll have they'll have Rupp finish out the season and then Knapp next year, and then they have a couple other prospects catching as well.
Now, can you describe the players coming up that a lot of people don't know of? You got a Knapp in AAA. You also have a Nick Williams, more flashier. But what are some other names can we look forward to?
Jorge Alfaro, he's another top catching prospect. He came over in the Cole Hamels deal. He's currently in AA, and he'll probably be moving up his way within the next couple of years. Another prospect, another outfielder, is Cornelius Randolph. He was drafted out of high school. He is 18 years old. He's in Single A right now in Lakewood with the Blue Claws, but they expect him to be fast. He has a good speed, and he can also hit for some power too. So he's going to be on the radar for the Phillies for the next few years. Won't be a while. He'll be a while to make the major leagues. It'll be a few years, but definitely keep your eye on him in the minor leagues.
Future is bright. If you're going to compare him to possibly Quinn and him in the outfield to go along with Nick Williams potentially, that shows a lot of promise.
Definitely.
Now, we're going to go on a different type of idea. We already know the Phillies locked up the worst record in baseball last season. Well, the Phillies get to reap the benefits of that now. Who potentially could go number one and on the Phillies' radar currently?
Right now, the Phillies are sketched for the number one overall pick, and the top on the list for the prospects to get drafted are Jason Groom. He's a pitcher out of a New Jersey high school. He's a big guy, 6'6". He's got a fastball in the mid 90s, and he's heavily favored as the number one pick in this year's MLB draft.
Now that could be something. The Phillies just adding arms. It looks like the Cole Hamels deal, a couple other people, and Ken Giles trade. It looks like the Phillies are just stashing arms in the minors.
Pitching wins championships.
It's true. Is there anyone else that could potentially go number one outside? You said he's almost a lock at number one, but
AJ Puck, he is another big guy, another pitcher. He's 6'7". He's a lefty who throws in the mid 90s.
6'7". Wow, it's like a basketball team. Maybe the Sixers can sign him.
Yeah, he was actually drafted by the Tigers in 2013, but he decided to go to Florida to attend college, and he's had a great career down in Florida.
Man, it sounds like I like him already. Now, lastly, before we get into MLB predictions, what game should Phillies fans circle? Because, there's a lot of young talent, but sometimes the giveaways, promotions play a role into why people start to go into Citizens Bank Park. What games can they look forward to?
Well, everyone looks forward to the home opener, whether they're a good team or not. It's a new year. Everyone gets excited about it today, an excuse to take off from work. So everybody loves getting there for the home opener. Another game on your calendar to circle is definitely when the Phillies play the Dodgers. That will be on August 16th. Definitely great to see Utley back at Citizens Bank Park. The fans will be really excited about that. And another game to circle on your calendar is August 12th. That's the Toyota Wall of Fame Phillies night. And Jim Thome, he gets inducted into the Phillies Hall of Fame. So we all remember his big 400th home run at Citizens Bank Park. He had a great career with the Phillies. He was loved in Philadelphia for sure.
What a lot of people don't realize, Jim Thome showed and groomed Ryan Howard. He even copied his stance.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Howard being in Thome's wing for all those years, and he definitely learned a lot from him.
And that's what you got to appreciate. A lot of these players grooming them. You saw a lot of Brad Lidge show the way for young guys in the bullpen, especially the pitchers when you have Roy Halladay here. In addition to a Cliff Lee, especially when the Phillies made that '08 playoff run, you had Jamie Moyer on the mound. And let's be honest, he's like a dinosaur that throws about 70 miles an hour, but he knew how to place his pitches. And that's something like Greg Maddux used to do when he got later into his career. It's all about ball placement. And not a lot of these young pitchers, especially like look at the Mets rotation, all they throw is gas. And it's great to throw 100 miles an hour, but you need to learn the ways of the game.
Yeah, you need to know the mechanics. You need to know your hitters. You need to have a lot more than just a hard fastball. You need to know the game.
Yeah, you need to be a student of the game more importantly. You see a lot of these young players are so anxious to try and hit a home run that maybe a walk or two is a better situation just to get on base compared to knocking it out of the park.
You have to be a smart hitter. You have to be smart defensively. You have to be smart pitching too. It's baseball's 90% mental. Is that the quote that they say? Baseball's more mental than it is physical sometimes.
Now, we'll talk about Larry Bow is back for the Phillies. That's a big deal. He's back on the bench. You got the new manager, I believe Pete Mackanin is his name?
Yes.
Now, yes, he was resigned because it's a stepping stool with all the young guys, but he knows all the young guys. It's a big move.
Yeah, having somebody that the players can look up to and feel comfortable with. Charlie Manuel was great with the players when he was here for all the time. The players had great respect for them. So this is a new generation, so maybe these young guys will have similar respect to what the '08, '09 team had with Charlie Manuel.
Now, that concludes our Phillies segment. Next up is going to be our MLB predictions. Now, starting with the AL East. Who do you got, Amanda?
I have the Blue Jays winning the AL East.
Any reason in particular? What do you see out of the Blue Jays? I know they got Joey Bats, and they can just pretty much blast it. But do they have the pitching, do you think, to get through a tough AL East?
I think so. They have the offense, like you said, Joey Bats, but also Tulowitzki in there as well. So they have a pretty big offensive team. Pitching's going to be big for the AL. I think the National League's definitely stronger in that area. The Blue Jays, they have R.A. Dickey. They also have, believe it or not, some former Phillies, J.A. Happ, Gavin Floyd. They're in the bullpen, not a big role for them, but they have the Blue Jays bullpen. They have Drew Storen, who they're going to rely at the end of the bullpen.
Well, I mean, the big deal is what the Red Sox did. They made a giant splash. They paid out the wazoo to bring in the big lefty, David Price, into their rotation. And they weren't just done with him. They brought in a few other guys. They could do some damage. A lot of people are discarding the Red Sox just because of what the Blue Jays did last season.
The Red Sox are definitely going to be in competition with the Blue Jays. I have the wild card winners as the Red Sox. I think that they're just going to miss the AL East title, but it's definitely going to be a close race out there in the AL East.
Now we're going to move forward to the AL Central. A lot of people are picking the Royals to repeat. Are you one of those people?
I'm one of those people for the Royals, but not winning the World Series. I think they're going to win the pennant again for the American League, but I don't see them winning the title again.
Now, what really stands out for the Royals? We've seen them have the ability to field. They're one of those teams that has a sound at every single position. It feels like about 3 or 4 Gold Glovers. I mean, you got a solid catcher back there, and anytime you have a great catcher, you know you're going to trust your pitchers more, and he's going to be command of the field.
They have a lot of young guys. They have a solid rotation. They do solid defensively. They have Kendry Morales as their DH. They have Salvador Perez, like you said, behind the plate, and he's been solid. They have pretty solid defensive infield with Escobar and Infante, and, of course, Alex Gordon in the outfield. So they have a pretty solid young team there.
But don't you think it was a big move to get Cueto there last season and really pay dividends come postseason? The rotation isn't the best in the world, but if you're able to get to that bullpen about the 6th inning, it is lights out. They just need some quality starts in their starting rotation.
bullpens are huge, and we can see from the Phillies, if you have a bad bullpen, it can ruin your year. If you have a great bullpen, it can make your year. So bullpens, they're really underrated in baseball.
That's very true. Moving out west in the AL West, what can we expect from these teams out maybe in Anaheim with Mike Trout, or are you going in a different direction?
Mike Trout, he's going to be the MVP, but I think that the AL West is going to go to the Astros. They have a young team. They have a lot of young guys coming up, and I think that they're going to have a nice year this year.
I can't blame it. Carrera is a phenomenal shortstop, maybe almost Jeter-esque.
Yeah, the Astros, they have high hopes for him, and hopefully he'll continue to have success.
Getting into the last two playoff spots, who do you have in the AL?
For the wild card, I have the Rangers and the Red Sox. I like Hamels. I think he's going to lead the Rangers, that top of the rotation. And the Red Sox, we mentioned earlier, they have David Price. So they made a big splash there. So I think it's going to have Red Sox, Rangers, wild card.
In addition to the Rangers, what really stood out for you?
Fielder. We have Ian Desmond, Adrian Beltre, Elvis Andrews, Shin-Soo Choo. They have a solid roster. Guys who are veterans, been in this position before, in addition to some younger guys thrown in there.
Okay, that recaps the AL. Moving towards the National League, we come to the Phillies division and the NL East. Now, I love my Phillies dearly, but I don't see them getting out of the basement.
That would be a miracle.
Now, are you one of those taking the Mets?
No, I'm taking the Nationals this year.
Okay, they're going to go with the Nationals, even though the Mets represented the NL last year?
I think that the Mets are going to make the postseason as the wild card, but I think on top of the division, we're going to see the Nationals.
Now, does Bryce Harper have a big impact on that? We already seen almost every opening day hit a bomb about 450 feet.
Oh, absolutely. I think he's going to have another MVP year. I think he's going to make it back-to-back.
That recaps the NL East. Moving towards the Central, the favorite almost every year coming out of the Central are the St. Louis Cardinals. But in the first series, we saw the Pittsburgh Pirates be for real. They have pitching, they have hitting, they have the complete set. But I see you going with the favorite in the Cubs.
Yeah, I think the Cubs, they have Chris Bryant, they have star-studded offense. They're obviously the favorite to win the World Series. Not sure they're going to win the World Series this year.
You just lost Schwarber, which is a big loss.
Yeah, I think they're still going to be able to win the Central. How far they get into the postseason, we'll see. The postseason's always a lot of luck, and the Cubs' history has shown that they don't have that. But they're definitely, in my opinion, the favorite for the Central.
But that's three solid teams. You have the Cardinals, who are in it every single year with Molina behind the plate. You additionally have a team like the Cubs, who are up and coming, and the Pirates, who have proven that they made the postseason last year, and a ball bounces a different way. They get by.
Yeah, another close race. I think this is probably going to be one of the closest races in baseball this year.
Now, one of the toughest divisions in baseball this year could be the NL West. There are a couple of teams. You saw the Diamondbacks pay a fortune to get Zach Greinke away from the Dodgers. So when the Dodgers go out, they get a few. They reload. And then the Giants, on the other hand, what they do, they spend a couple $100 million. They get pitchers left and right. They bring in Samardzija. They bring in Cueto. They have about a four-headed monster. Who do you like?
Giants. I think it's going to be a close race. I think the Dodgers are going to be on their tail all season. But I think in the end, the Giants, they have those key players that they need, Hunter Pence, and those players that you mentioned before. So
yeah, I miss Hunter Pence.
Yeah. Let's go eat. I missed that.
But for my prediction, that is who I have winning it all. Not just because they have the star names, but because they have the pitchers. Pitching and fielding is such a crucial part. We'll see if they can get some runs and manufacture some runs. But they just find a way almost every year to just be in that conversation of wild card or winning the division.
Yeah, and that's where you need to be. All you have to do is get to the postseason, and then anything can happen from there.
That's what Arizona wants, too. Don't forget about Arizona. Goldschmidt was runner-up to Harper in the NL MVP race for the last 2 years. The guy is phenomenal.
He's very underrated, too. People look at Bryce Harper, but rarely do you see Goldschmidt's name thrown out there like Harper and some of the other guys.
In the National League, who are the pair of wild card teams that squeeze their way in?
I think the Dodgers and the Mets. The Mets were there last year in the postseason, winning the NL East. But I think the Mets will definitely make it again. They have those young guys in the rotation who throw heat.
Oh, they can certainly throw heat. With the National League and AL, we're going to talk about MVP. Are you going to go with Trout and Harper almost as a repeat as last year?
Yeah, I think Trout's going to win the MVP this year. Got gypped last year, but Bryce
Harper...
He
should have won it last season.
He should have, yes, he should have. Sometimes they think about the teams that are in it, and that's not really fair. I think MVP should go to the best player, but Mike Trout should have won it, and I think he'll win it this year. And I think Bryce Harper repeats.
Harper had the stats for sure. And if he has signs of improvement, he is going to be potentially a very rich man as his contract is up.
Oh, definitely. I think, honestly, looking at all the hype, his rookie year was disappointing to a lot of people, and he still put up amazing numbers. And then next year, he followed that up, and he had a great year last year, and I think he's only going to get better. Scary if you're in the National League, but he's going to be a guy to watch.
Now, going opposite, Cy Young candidates for National League.
National League, I think it's going to be Clayton Kershaw. He was in the voting last year, did not win the Cy Young last year, but I think Dodgers are really going to rely on him at the top of their rotation. He's always a reliable pitcher, and I think
he's a scary left-handed pitcher. He does rack them up strikeout-wise.
Definitely. I think he's going to have a great year this year.
And for the American League?
I'm going to go with Cole Hamels. I don't think anybody's pinning him for the American League Cy Young, but I think he's going to have a great year this year. Hopefully he can continue with his strikeouts, innings, and low ERA, and maybe he'll be a surprise.
I think you're nuts, but that's me. I love Cole Hamels dearly, but he is playing in Texas where the ball likes to fly out. And that could have a tendency to impact his ERA in addition to a couple of different things. But you never know. Baseball is a crazy sport. And finally, postseason, World Series. What do you got?
World Series, I have the Nationals over the Royals. I think the Royals are going to make it back, but I don't think they're going to win. I think Bryce Harper, Jason Worth, Steven Strasburg are going to lead the Nationals to a title and a world championship.
I was a Phillies fan that almost rips my heart right out of my chest with Jason Worth winning it again. But it is a crazy sport, and you really don't know what's going to happen. I really just see the Giants really coming together this year for some reason, and that reason is pitching. I just don't trust the Nationals pitchers to even get the division, let alone...
No Strasburg, no Gio Gonzalez. Those guys, even Papelbon at the end of the bullpen, Max Scherzer.
They had them all last year, and look what happened.
It's New Year.
It is a new year, but the young arms of the Mets, you have about 3 to 4 aces, just like the Giants. They can all throw heat. They're all wearing Thor outfits in the postseason last year. And the best part about it, they're only getting paid like less than $1 million. They're all young arms. I mean, that's going to screw them in years to come, but that's besides the point. Let's worry about now. And they have Cespedes locked up. They're paying him big bucks to be in the outfield and knocking some runs.
They have David Wright, who's seasoned veteran. He'll give you a decent, solid 280 average, if that, maybe possibly higher. And, of course, they have Jacob deGrom, Noah Syndergaard, definitely top pitchers. And I guess the key for the Mets pitching, you must need to have long hair to be a good pitcher over there.
Hey, it's all about health. As long as Harvey can stay healthy, they call him the Dark Knight. We say Batman can stay healthy for just one more season for the Mets. And that will conclude this baseball edition on the Pasco Sports. Thanks for joining me, Amanda.
Thanks for having me.